We'll explore what we believe is wrong with Brian Thomas Jr. and some other aspects of Jacksonville's team here on Locked On Jaguars.
You are Locked On Jaguars, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It is your team every day here on Locked On Jaguars. We thank you for making us your first listen. I'm Tony Wiggins, the host of the Locked On Jaguars podcast that you can find everywhere you get your podcast. Just make sure you tap in wherever that is, whether you watch or listen, and we will be there. Covered the Jaguars as a credentialed member of the media now for almost 2 decades. So I like to think I have my finger on the pulse of the team, and I like to give you a little bit of insight as to what is going on with this club. All right, so here's where we're going to end up talking about a higher standard for QB1. Got a lot of people protecting Trevor Lawrence yesterday after the postgame show. I'll go into explain why I appreciate your protection, but I'll also explain why I said what I said. 1 play, 2 plays, 3 plays. The game never really comes down to 1 play, but it can come down to 1 when you add it up to 2 and then add another 1 to 3, and we'll discuss that. But first, what's wrong with BTJ? The obvious thing this morning, a lot of people are talking about, and they talked about it all last night to the point where you had people say that he needs to go. He's terrible. He's a bust. And I wanted to say this to the fans again. I appreciate you fanning, and I'll never tell you how to do it. I don't do my job that way through that lens. So, and that's not say that I don't call for people and say that people should not be held accountable, or that once you realize somebody isn't good at something, then it's okay to say that you probably need to move on. But I'm just not going to do it from that anger standpoint, and I don't make any apologies for that. But what I will say is everybody's got a good point that talks about Brian Thomas Jr. And I'll go back and tell you that I said he was a top 10 receiver. And I said I didn't think he was 10-9 and maybe not even 8. Yeah, I said it. Courage is a skill. And my assessment of BTJ, I ain't got to explain it. Everybody saw what he did. Everybody who's criticizing him now saw what he did last year. And one of the things that I always paraded and carried my flag for was that he did it while not catching the ball from Trevor Lawrence for the majority of the season because Trevor was hurt. And then that statement stuck with me. He didn't catch a lot of balls from Trevor Lawrence when he did what he did. But now that he's catching balls from Trevor Lawrence, he's doing what he's doing, and we don't like it. I don't like it. It's not Trevor's fault. I don't think so. I don't think it's a difference between getting used to Trevor and not being used to Trevor, because he showed enough flashes with Trevor last year. It's a new offense that may require him to run across the middle and engage in defenders that are protecting their parts of the field. You know, the same offense that Cooper Kupp ran around in, the one that Justin Jefferson is likely very similar to running around in, the one you saw Mike Evans running, and Jalen McMillan playing in last year. So we're not going to give him an excuse, and that's not an off-ramp for him either. The thing that I will tell you is this. You can be as big and as fast and catch as many beautiful balls and hit top speeds of 22 miles per hour all you want to. But in football, you cannot appear to be scared. And this is not me saying you're a coward. You're off the island. What I'm telling you is there's a reputation on film of you ducking smoke. The smoke is about to get worse. When teams and players think you're not physical, they become more physical to let you know that, no, you can't get away. This is how we're going to play this game. And I see Brian Thomas Jr. catching balls and slant passes where it looks like he still has room, and he goes down. He starts doing what Torrey Holt did. I ain't mean to throw no shrapnel at Torrey Holt, but Torrey Holt, late in his career, notice I said late in his career, was like, man, no, I'm getting down. I'm not taking that hit. And a lot of Jaguar fans said that about him back in the day. You're in year 2. You got to take that, man. If a ball is in your area, if you are a top 10 receiver, or if you're any receiver, a guy trying to make a roster, you better find your way to catch it and take what comes with it. I couldn't do it. That's why I'm sitting here behind this microphone in my office on North Main Street. But I'm not the one that is in a posture and in a position to being able to do it. I know it's hard, but guess what? This is relative to all the other great receivers. You saw two dudes take smoke yesterday. Hell, T. Higgins ran through a hit from two Jaguars and scored a touchdown. And looked like he was laughing at them while they were laying on the ground. No, BTJ, it's not going to fly. And now the worrisome part of me is, what part of coaching fixes it? We had Jaguar great Jimmy Smith saying yesterday, man, you got to catch the ball. This one thing those dudes don't play about is their craft, man, and they're not going to let you slide when it looks like you're trying to slide. Brian Thomas Jr., we expected more and we expected better. And for what it's worth, I'm not sure that even if he catches that ball that he gets the first down. If you go back and look at it, the reason why it looked like he probably could have got it is because he took his eyes off the ball and tried to turn first. If he waits to catch it, with his lack of physicality and what we've seen so far these first two games, I'm not sure he runs through that dude to get to that marker. And that'll be something that they'll discuss with Liam Cohen, and we'll have to talk about that. Did those hits in the preseason really cause him to start ducking? Because he took a couple of bang hits in the preseason that everybody was like, whoa, that was a hospital ball. Well, now, does he think all of them are hospital balls? Is there a way he can get past it? We've never been through this with a Jaguars receiver before. And I don't know if I've ever seen the tide ebb and flow so quickly from people thinking the dude was a great player to now questioning that, because even Jamar Chase, as great as he is, had the drops when he first came into the league in the preseason. He ain't got them no more, but nobody said he was dropping those balls because he was afraid to get hit. And that is a problem, and it's going to continue to be a problem because y'all know what's coming. Low-hanging fruit, it is coming. Those other teams and those other players from those other teams are going to be more and more physical, and then they're going to press. And they're going to hit him every time. He know it's coming now, because now it appears that you are a little bit afraid of it. I'm not going to put all of this on him, but I'm giving a broad. See, the thing about doing a daily podcast is you ain't got to get everything out in one podcast. So yesterday I talked a little bit about the stars not showing up. I mentioned BTJ and I mentioned Trevor, and a lot of people got upset. In segment 3, I'm going to tell you why I have a higher standard for QB1. And it's no longer about what he didn't do wrong. It's about we're trying to say or compare him to guys that do a certain thing right. It's not about routine plays. It is about galvanizing your team at a point when things are going wrong and them being able to turn to you the way teams turn to Josh Allen, the way teams turn to Lamar Jackson, the way teams turn to Joe Burrow or his backup if he plays against the Jaguars, and the way teams turn to Patrick Mahomes. We want to put him and elevate him to that level. There was a point where there was a lull with the Jaguars offense yesterday, and he needed to look like a dude that was above everything, above the fray, and he was running past this line of scrimmage, throwing the ball when he's 4 or 5 yards down the field, which led the official to say something so funny I can't even remember. It's like something like, yeah, he was way beyond the first down mark. And then Trevor continued to argue with the official because of I guess he thought it was going to be a situation where there was 2 fouls. It was a pass interference call. Once you pass the line of scrimmage, you are a runner, and it is an illegal forward pass. The referee then had to explain that, and that's why I said it's a bad look. And at that point, a lot of people start saying we're getting the Trevor Lawrence experience. And I said, here we go. Because as well as he had played, he gave you the full experience at that moment. I'm going to talk about that and more, and why it didn't come down to one play in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. All right, this episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the daily fantasy app where making the right call can actually pay off. You and I make decisions every day, but on PrizePicks, being right means cashing in. With football back, PrizePicks is the simplest and fastest way to get in on the action. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player projections, and you can turn your stakes into real prizes all in less than 60 seconds. I'm looking at this game later, and I'm thinking that whatever the touchdowns are for Saquon Barkley, he's going to exceed it. There you go. Take Saquon. Now, download the PrizePicks app today and use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. All right, moving and grooving right here on Locked On Jaguars, where it's your team every day. We thank you for making us your first listen. Was discussing Trevor Lawrence and this thought that anything that I said to make it feel like he was the reason they lost this game is incorrect. But we've talked all offseason about not looking for problems, but looking for solutions. And we don't get to turn that off when it's convenience or when it's convenient. Trevor wasn't the problem. He just wasn't the solution. And we can talk about both of those as we'll get to more, because this didn't come down to just one play. And Liam Cohen said that yesterday. He said it in the locker room. Didn't come down to one play. It came down to a series of one plays. When you add them together, they canceled out a whole bunch of good. There was a point when I was watching this game, and you can agree with me or disagree with me. You can correct me if you want to. That's fine. There was a point where I felt like, and a point where I thought the Jacksonville Jaguars should have been up by 17 points, like 24-7. It just felt like if you took the score off the screen, I would have told you that they were blowing Cincinnati out of the water. That's not the case. The game was close. Cincinnati they're going to score. They have an offense. They leaned on their star player, number 1, and then eventually got to number 5, T. Higgins. And the ball's going to beat you sometimes, right? But there are certain things where you look up and they had certain plays, and on each side of those plays as a negative recipient was a Jaguar star player, or at least a player that they're paying a bunch of money to be a star. Tyson Campbell, you give up an inside release on basically zero coverage when they're blitzing. And a lot of people are sitting there saying, why would you I saw one dude who writes for the NFL say T. Higgins and Jamar Chase don't change because the quarterback. No, they don't. But you know what people do? People, when the quarterback changes, they say, okay, he's not as talented as the other dude. So we're going to blitz him and make him make a quick decision. And then we're going to play one-on-one coverage and make him make a tight throw, period. The last thing you want to do is give a journeyman who knows the offense. He's like a coach over there. You sit back in the zone, he's going to destroy you. The reason why he's a backup is because he doesn't have the physical ability to do great things under pressure, right? That's why they did it. And it's common sense. But when something doesn't work, we look at the play call as opposed to looking at the fact that Tyson Campbell, according to Logan Ryan, who was calling the game, a Super Bowl champion DB, he said, you never give up a release and a stack to the inside when you don't have help over the top on a blitz. You just don't do it. If you get beat anywhere, you get beat to the outside because you can still use the out of bound marker as a extra defender. If you get beat to the inside and you get stacked and the dude gets past you, you're done. And that's what happened yesterday. You put too much pressure on the safety that has the other, the middle of the field. You ain't gonna be able to get over there in time, and Dewey Wingard wasn't able to. So it's the technique things from the players that you expect. It's Brian Thomas Jr. dropping passes. It's De'Ami Brown dropping a touchdown that seals this game. Sealed it. It's over. It's absolutely over. There's a bogus pass interference call on Travis Hunter. But then we can also go back and talk about, several of these things. Everybody will talk about Liam Cohen going for it. I was totally with him. And I know people say, we got to get the points. All right. So let me use some logic and break this down. And I know I'm laughing and people are saying, "No, Wig, you know it doesn't work like that." Okay. But sometimes it does work like this. It's just this simple. By the way, I haven't mentioned the score. The Jaguars lost 31-27. Anybody listening to the show probably knows that by now. But let me get this straight. So the Jaguars are up by 3. I don't know where they were. I think the first down was at the 2-yard line. And so let's just say they're on the 10 or the 9-yard line, right? If they don't make it, they're going to force a team to have to go 90 yards to score a touchdown to beat them, or go at least 62 yards to get a field goal to tie them. They put the team in a 4th down situation. Travis Hunter makes a great play. They call it bogus pass interference. If not for that, the game is over, right? And folks say take the points and go up by 6 and force them to have to score a touchdown. You mean the touchdown that they just scored from 90 yards away? That's what you were saying that we should have forced them to try to do? That's what they did. They actually did exactly what you say we should have forced them to try to do. The other part of it is they did it under more duress, because their average kickoff, they kept getting the ball beyond the 30-yard line, the 35-yard line. A couple of times they got it out to the 40 on kickoffs. So not only could they run a kickoff back, but now they're going to at least get the ball, let's just say around the 35-yard line. So you mean to tell me it's going to be more difficult for them to go 65 yards and score a touchdown that they know they need than it is for them to go 90 or 92 yards to score a touchdown that they don't even need, but if they do it, they'll win the game. And then they actually did it. Liam Cohen did the right thing. And anybody that thinks he didn't do the right thing, they're crazy. They're absolutely, they lost their mind. Cincinnati had 3 timeouts. You get in the ball at the 35-yard line, you sitting there thinking that they ain't going to try to, and if you have to protect the end zone, you know what that does? You give up a whole bunch of a whole bunch of stuff underneath. I guarantee you they're on the 30-yard line of the Jaguars with 40 seconds left with a first down. That's what happened. That's what's going to happen. And you still got to guard Jamar Chase, and you still got to guard T. Higgins, and you ain't done a good job of it in the second half. That's it. I mean, I don't get why people think that was a bad decision. It wasn't a bad decision. It was a good decision. It was absolutely the right decision. So it wasn't necessarily about one play. It was about a whole bunch of plays, but it was more about the Jaguars putting themselves in a position where those plays mattered at the end of the game when they should have been way ahead. And that is why I put it on Trevor Lawrence early when the team was looking around and looking crazy, probably for about 10, 12 minutes between the second and the middle of the third quarter. He was giving you the Trevor Lawrence experience. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about here next on Locked On Jaguars. You know, this show is sponsored by BetterHelp. We all turn to some funny places for advice. Your barista, your barber, well, I know that to be true, and maybe even a random stranger in the bathroom, but not everyone is the right one when it comes to support. That's why BetterHelp is here with over 30,000 licensed therapists and more than 10 years of experience. BetterHelp helps you find your right match, someone who is clinically trained and credentialed to guide you through life's challenges. All of these podcasts and all of these people on here telling you about relationships and marriages, and they ain't never been it or seen it. It's a dangerous thing. And as the largest online therapy provider in the world, BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a diverse variety of expertise. Find the one with BetterHelp. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/lockedon. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. And the show is sponsored and brought to you by Upside. Man, are y'all still spending all of that money for gas without any savings? Stop leaving money behind. Get real cash back every time you fill up with the free Upside app. Simply download the free Upside app in the App Store and Google Play right now and start earning cash at the pump today. Use my limited time promo code TOUCHDOWN and get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You could make up to $300 a year just from buying the gas you already needed. At first, I thought it was too good to be true, but it's totally legit. Real people are getting paid just to make their daily commutes, and you can too. Plus, you can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or e-gift card for Amazon and other brands. Don't let this offer drive on by. Download the free Upside app now using my limited time promo code TOUCHDOWN for a limited time 25 cent per gallon bonus. That's promo code TOUCHDOWN. Offers vary by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions. All right, to the why are you blaming Trevor Lawrence for this loss crowd? That is not what I did. And I would caution everyone to stop being so sensitive when it comes to Trevor Lawrence. In case you're new here, I got into a couple of heated debates with national people. One time it was Richard Sherman, future Hall of Fame corner, about Trevor Lawrence. I have talked ad nauseum on this podcast about people that have unfairly, I believe, unfairly criticized Trevor Lawrence. And sometimes mainly it's because if you listen to them long enough, you can tell they don't know about causation, cause and effect, watching the games, and all of that stuff. I am not here to backtrack on any of that stuff today. What I am telling you is cause and effect or causation has some causes that has some effects that aren't necessarily immediate. And what that is I often ask this question: have they messed up this dude? I don't think they have. I kind of looked at my wife, and my wife said, well, what's going on with him? And I said, listen, this is what it is. And right around that same time, people that I trust were like, man, this is. So I purposely took the temperature on social media at that time while I was watching the game. And they varied from Trevor stinks to here we go again. I saw some that say, wow, in year 5. I saw one from my buddy Sam that said something like, this play calling is interesting since your quarterback is struggling. Talking about Liam Cohen. And then right after that, the Jaguars started running the football. And when they started running the football, they ended up scoring a touchdown. I think that was either the Tootin or I think that was the Tootin touchdown when they were going with short passes and running the football and being really, really physical. So right around that time, I was like, damn, here's the narratives again. And these are the things that I've been wanting Trevor Lawrence to duck for so long. But sure enough, for right there for about a 10, 12-minute stretch, it was full Trevor. And I said, it kind of reminds me of Jameis Winston a little bit. And let me explain that. Jameis is currently a backup. I don't think Trevor is headed to that point or anywhere near that. And he shouldn't be benched. You're right when you point out all the things that he did well yesterday. But when Jameis Winston plays football, I point out a lot of things that he does well. In fact, there are some throws that he makes that only about 10 guys in the league can make, and Trevor's one of them. But then there's this other thing where things, when they start going wrong, they keep going that way. Fumbling a snap, that's basically a loss of down. Throwing a ball up that should be picked that doesn't get picked. Throwing another one up that gets tipped, and then Travis Hunter And when you dance around all the time, you got to catch the ricochet. I'm sorry, especially when it hits you in your stomach. Sometimes, you got to look at what you pay for something. You expect different expectations when you pay a lot for something, and Travis got to make that play. The pass that he was pressured on that he threw, the first interception that was short in the corner to Travis Hunter. 1, the pressure was there. 2, was it enough for that throw? Did his arm get hit? No. 3, the throw was probably a little bit late and short. We can't let him off the hook for that, because if they score, even if you see the pressure coming and you just take the sack, we get a field goal. And I know it's early in the game, but that field goal wins you the game. Eventually, it's another score that they have to overcome. It probably doesn't win in the game if you do the math, but you see what I'm saying? It's another score that they have to overcome. It's more momentum. Right after that turnover, they go down and and they make a little noise. So you couldn't tell me that the Jaguars would get 3 interceptions, would stop the run the way that they did. Joe Burrow will be missing, and the Jaguars would still lose a game to a backup quarterback that they were winning by 10 points. That's a problem. I don't care who you think the Cincinnati Bengals were coming into the game. Somebody told me the Bengals, I feel good, the Bengals were Super Bowl contenders. The Bengals were not Super Bowl contenders. I do this for a living. I talk to Bengals guys all the time. Not one person said that they were Super Bowl contenders. 2, the Bengals weren't Super Bowl contenders with a backup quarterback named Jake Browning as their quarterback. So stop that foolishness. We got to get away from that, and I won't even entertain stuff like that anymore. I just have a higher standard for Trevor Lawrence. And trust me, as a dude that has stood out there as a Trevor Lawrence advocate, nobody wants him to be good more than me. And I'm not going to look at these stats and go, he did everything. And I'm not going to look at the drops. We already know that Trevor Lawrence had more drops in the first 4 years of his career than anybody. But we also know he had more turnovers in his first 4 years than any other quarterback. It is what it is. Jameis Winston literally has a 30 touchdown, almost a 5,000-yard passing season with 30 touchdowns and 30 picks, and that's why he's not the quarterback. The reason why I'm comparing the two is it just seems like they have this ceiling that is great and this floor that is at the very minimum. What on the world are you doing, and why do bad things continue to happen? So the great quarterbacks around this league, I just get the feeling that it's a figurative, we're in trouble, bail us out look that comes from his teammates. We saw it early in the season with Josh Allen, down 15 to a team that's steamrolling you. What are you going to do? And none of those receivers are as good as the receivers that the Jaguars have right now. And he literally put this team on his back. And so when I talk about Trevor Lawrence, I don't talk about him as the root of the problem. I look for him to be the solution, because he is the dude making all of that money. He is the guy that we have defended. So it's not like I'm blaming him for it. But what I am doing is saying, why didn't you get us out of it? And you can talk about the throw to Brian Thomas Jr. You can talk about the drop to Diami Brown. If you want to bring up stuff from the first quarter, I'll bring up stuff from the first quarter. That pass in the end zone, I don't care about no pressure. You got to get points. You can't throw it. And everybody said it at the time. And then people want to give him a break and say, well, Hendrickson was in his face. People are always in quarterback's face or faces. I just have a higher standard for the dude. And I know him and Liam going back and forth with the little wave off and all of that. It doesn't mean, it doesn't mean what the cameras try to make it mean. But when Liam says hit him in his body, it kind of tells me you don't say that to a dude that just misses a throw every now and then by not hitting a dude in his body. You say that to a dude that makes throws that guys sometimes forces people too much to have to not catch the ball where their body is. Parker Washington, I thought he was the hero of the game yesterday. Him and Etienne and Tootin and a bunch of dudes everybody wanted to get rid of, Devin Lloyd. For me, there was a pass that he caught early in the game that wasn't a great throw, but Trevor gave him a chance to make a play, and he went and made it. Kudos to him. But at some point when your coach yells something like that, do you believe that there's a little sub reason why he does it? That maybe the ball isn't being put where placement-wise in the easiest place for dudes to catch balls? That could be it. And we could take that back to the Brian Thomas Jr. We ain't giving him no passes either because he caught one where he ducked. I think if he looks up, he sees nothing but green and he scores a touchdown. All of these things are going to be examined. This is a tough sport, and people want to look at talent as just run, jump, throw. No, talent is also, if that's the case, then why do we say people that can do math in their head like that are super talented or chess players? Yeah, because that's a talent. You know what else is a talent? Physical ability. Not just physical ability, but psychological ability. Can you handle that smoke? Can you play when you know you're going to get hit? This ain't 7-on-7. All of this stuff has to try to line up to get back on track for the Jaguars. They're 1-1. So just to close this show, I'm going to just tell you, I would have been coming on here had the Jaguars won that game and they would have allowed Travis Hunter's play to stand as not pass interference, but a great play on defense. I would come on here and say they're 2-0. They found a way to win a game in the past that they normally would have lost. I can't say that this morning. They're 1-1, and they found a way to lose a game that they should have won. But that doesn't take away from all of the things that went wrong. If they had won this game, y'all would still be wondering what was wrong with Brian Thomas Jr. Had they won this game on Travis Hunter's play, y'all would still be sitting here saying De'Ami Brown has to catch that ball. Had they won this game, y'all would still be saying Tyson Campbell cannot let a guy stack and release into the inside when there's zero coverage on the back end. All of those things would still be true. They just be 2-0 instead of 1-1. And those things would still need to be addressed if the Jaguars are going to be what you think they're going to be. So I'm not going to apologize for not doing shows that pinpoint one single thing that happened in this game. I'm not doing it. But if you want to hear what I got to say each and every day, you can tap in right here to Locked On Jaguars. And you can also go over to Locked On NFL, where I host a show called The Barbershop in the afternoon after Tyler Rowland, the Madman, opens up with a show early in the morning, 2 times a day on Locked On NFL. Make sure y'all check that out. Also, for anything that you want to learn about the Locked On NFL Network, make sure you tap in the Locked On NFL LockedOnPodcast.com/newsletters. We have a great newsletter that we work really, really hard on. And it's really good for you guys in Cincinnati, man, that are catching planes on the way home and sitting in the airport. Check out our newsletters here on Locked On NFL. Also, thank you again to the Everydayers for joining us, and you can be one too. All you got to do is come back tomorrow here on Locked On Jaguars.